Hello, we are Sangsan High School students, and this is our debate video on effect on the social media. I am the proposition speaker Cho Hyemin.
And I'm the opposition speaker, Kim Hyeonyeong. Before we start discussion, we will introduce the debate topic, social media.
According to Cambridge Dictionary, social media is websites and computer programs that allow people to communicate and share information on the internet using a computer or mobile phone. Examples of social media include media sharing apps like Pinterest, YouTube, and messenger apps like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Globally, 3.8 billion people used social media in 2012, and the number has been increasing for years. The time people spend on social media per day has increased from 90 minutes in 2012 to 144 minutes in 2019. With the increasing of social media use, the benefits and problems of using social media are also rising. In this video, we will discuss whether social media give young people positive effects. By having this discussion, we can understand the advantage and disadvantage of social media. It will lead to a better and healthier using of social media for not only us but the viewers of this video.
Today, a lot of people use SNS. They use it for building social relationship, collecting information, and passing the time. In Korea, 11 million of people use SNS, such as Facebook, more than once a day. These statistics show us a significant number of people are using SNS. I think SNS give young people positive effect. First, we can get news immediately. SNS gives us a large amount of information, so we can get some information. For example, there are some useful information which makes our life better, like how to cook delicious and convenient food. And we can know what is going on in the world, like news or others' experience. We learn lessons from others' experience. We can use it for marketing or presentation of a social phenomenon. Second, we can build or strengthen relations with friends or strangers. In SNS, we can communicate with strangers and friends. We can share our opinion with strangers, and we can build relations with them. With friends, we share fun posts and share our daily life with them. For example, we post pictures with friends on SNS and friends write a comment. Through it, we can communicate and we can strengthen relations.
Social media does not give young people positive effect. To begin, social media has a weak privacy problem. By virus or hacking, personal information can be exposed. In 2018, an attack on Facebook exposed the personal information of over 50 million users, and virus attacks allow cybercriminals to control accounts or send messages for money. In addition, social media can ruin real-life relationships. According to the study, social media users have poor social interaction skills, and social media can be a tool of cyberbullying. By social media, cyberbullying like spreading false rumors and having explicit message of them shared without their consent can be happen. Moreover, social media has negative effect on society. People can spread false news by social media. The creator of a website which wrote fake news about Trump and Hillary while 2016 presidential election said their fake news spiked on Facebook and 90% of the site traffic was from Facebook. And without anonymity on social media, people can express hate toward minorities, and this leads to increase of hate crime. Also, hate speech can deepen discrimination and social conflict. Last, social media addiction is a serious concern, and it can bring mental illness like anxiety, low self-esteem, and depression because they can only view others' flawless filtered on online. By using more time on social media, the productivity of people who are addicted to social media decreases, and people can ignore their real life responsibilities like work, school, and physical health.
I disagree with your opinion. First, on SNS, we can communicate anonymously. Some people said if we abuse it, could be a big problem. However, it's not problem in itself, but problem of people who use it. If we use it properly, we could criticize about criminal, wrong policy of government, and discuss about all of the painful or angry news. If it makes our society more democratically and free. Some say through SNS, wrong information could spread quickly. SNS is easy to spread the news, like when someone spread wrong news, others repost it. We should develop our skill to think critically and don't share the information if it is not sure. Trait of SNS that information spreads so quickly can be both positive and negative effects, so it is based on people who use it. Some say it makes us to compare with others. Most of people post the happiest moments of their life, so if we compare it to our life, it will be very stressful. We should know that most of people post only good things. Of course, they have a bad day too. That's why we shouldn't compare our real life to others' SNS. If we don't compare us with others, we can use SNS to make good memories. And about privacy problem, it is important not to post our personal information on SNS. If we use it properly, we can prevent our SNS to be abused. On SNS, minority can gather easily and can make efforts to change the world.
I still don't think the SNS give young people positive effect. The competition to be the fastest and the first report led to the uncurrent news or fake news. In 2014, when the Seoul ferry incident happened, many broadcasting systems reported that everyone in the boat was rescued, which was opposite of the truth. This would happen because the reporter had not checked the information whether it is true before they reported. This supports the ethics of reporting. And false news spread faster, so we can't believe everything on the social media. Shouldn't evaluate the fast speed of spreading information or on social media as an advantage. Moreover, I agree that sharing opinion is a good thing. But the merge of extremists and their action affects our life as social media develop. The claim of extremists can be far-reaching. For instance, the joining of the Korean adolescent to IS is issued in Korea. He got information about IS through social media like Facebook and Twitter. In addition, when people like Donald Trump speak something racist, those who had alike views with him from all around the world left the message. They are encouraged by each other, believing their views on others are not wrong. Aside from this, there are problems of over-criticizing. As social media expands, we can directly speak with celebrities. When they speak something bad, that news spreads faster, larger, and it comes along with criticism. The problem is that celebrity can mean this word directly. Also, overusing social trend can make consumers tired. For example, if almost every industry used MBTI in advertising, people would easily move on from that trend. Also, if that social trend has a problem like sexism, the company can face criticism. There is a trend which imposes sexism in Korea, like viewing women as they want a bag from their boyfriend. A bake shop franchise which used that trend in marketing was criticized for sexism.
Through our debate, we learn effects of SNS. SNS can be a double-edged sword. If we don't pay attention to use it appropriate, others can abuse it. It could ruin our life. However, if we use it properly, it will be the most powerful tool. We can get immediate information and minority can gather easily. Minority can make opinion to change their life. For these reasons, I insist that SNS give young people positive effect.
Social media is like a drug. It is addictive and has negative effect on people's mental health. 40% of Americans aged between 18 and 25 thinks they are addicted to the social media. And social media can be linked to crimes like cyberbullying and leaks of personal information, and the expression of freedom result in the hate speech which lead to hate crime on minorities. Also, social media addiction can ruin one's life. Social media users have poor social interaction skills, and using more time in media reduces the quality of work. They care less about real life, such as health or academic achievement. Addiction to social media can influence people's mental health, result in anxiety and depression. As you can see, social media has negative effect on young people. Therefore, we should reduce using social media.